Join a group. Obviously, I'm going to say the Blue Tits, but any group. And don't commit yourself to swim at the beginning. If it's a good group, as I would hope most Blue Tits or all Blue Tit groups are, and you turn up and say, "Hi, I'm Sian. I'm not ready to swim yet, but I would just love to come along and meet you and watch what you do." Because that's also important, that we're very nervous. It takes a lot of courage to turn up to any group. You're worried about all sorts of things. Am I too old? Am I too slow? Am I too thin? Am I too fat? All of these. Are they going to put their Garmins on and start swimming? Oh my God, I'm going to be left behind. I don't want to do it. Don't overthink that bit too much. It's just being together with people. You naturally move anyhow and you feel so much better.
I've got a question for you. Have you ever gone into really cold water by choice? It's become quite a thing in the last few years, and I myself am a complete convert. However, a decade ago, it wasn't on people's radars as much. My guest today, Sian Richardson, was no stranger to setting herself challenges and decided to start training for an ice mile. I hadn't even heard of that. During the process, she found that her more competitive side was no longer serving her, and little did she know that her next decade would change her view on what was important in terms of her movement and her life, and would grow an incredible global community. I'm always intrigued by people's journeys with movement, so I asked if she had always enjoyed moving her body.
Not particularly, no, but I say that then really because I suppose I had 5 children and I had them very young. So I naturally moved my body quite a lot, running around after them. We live on a farm in the countryside. We had horses and dogs. So I very naturally moved an awful lot. But I wasn't a sporty type in school. And I think I grew up then with that thought that because I wasn't a sporty person, I therefore didn't move much. And I came very much from that angle that because I wasn't sporty and I wasn't going out there doing amazing sporting things. I mean, I did ride horses, but I wasn't therefore somebody who moved a lot. But of course I did move an awful lot because I was on a farm and I lived by the sea and I had 5 children and dogs and horses. So there was an awful lot of movement. When I got into my, I suppose, mid-30s, and I had depression, which was at the time I didn't understand what that was. I came from a family, I grew up, I was an only child, and I had lovely parents, and my mother was one of these people that would just say, "Try it. If you don't like it, don't do it again." So we were always doing things. I was always doing things with her, particularly as a child. And so when I didn't feel very well and I didn't really understand what on earth was going on, and my husband suggested that I go and see a doctor, and I did. And he said, "Oh, you've just got mild depression." And I was mortified by this. It was just like, what? No, I can't. I can't. Somebody like me doesn't get depression. And this was, 15 years ago, 25 years ago. And, depression is talked about a lot now. It wasn't 25 years ago. So I took the tablets and I was on them for 6 months. And then I said, "So, when do I come off these things?" And the doctor said, "Well, when you feel better, but you might be on them for the rest of your life." And I was mortified by this. Goodness me, no. Again, my mother wasn't a pill taker. So I'd grown up in a family that didn't take tablets for things. You went for a walk or a swim or something like that, and you made yourself feel better. So I just thought, there's got to be something else. And somebody said to me, "You should take up running." Now, they could have said swimming or skydiving or skiing, but they didn't. They said running. And at that time, where my brain was, I was very fixated on this. Yes, I've got to go running. If I go running, I'm going to feel a lot better. Now, coming from this background of not being sporty, the thought of running horrified me. So I started doing it in the dark. Because I was born in St David's, I've lived in St David's all my life. It's our Britain's biggest city, but it's a tiny village, and so everybody knew me, and I was mortified that people would think that me, the non-sporty, slightly overweight person in school, was going to be running. Who did she think she was? So I started running in the dark, and after a few months, I actually started feeling better. I used to loathe the thought of going out in the dark for a run, but within 20 minutes, my mind was somewhere else. I was sorting out problems, I was singing, I was dancing over stones and stuff like this. And I used to come back feeling amazing. And because of the type of person I am, if I start something, I will look to the very far extreme of that sport and I will think, oh, I'm going to give that a go. And so I decided, I was going to swim. I was going to run a 5K and then a half marathon and then a marathon and then an ultra marathon. And so I did. And then I was loving this. I was always the slow person at the back. I was the person who stopped to give somebody else a banana or tell them they were going to be fine. Come on, we'll run together or we'll walk together. Never really minded if I finished something. I never got into that real intense, if I don't finish it in my PB time, the world is going to end. I wasn't like that.
So it was just about finishing then. It was about getting it done and sort of chalking it up as another great thing to do.
Yes, I soon realized that even getting to the start line was amazing because that's where you are terrified. And, to get there was just this incredible thing. So if I finished, great. If I didn't, well, I learned something about myself. And so I started doing this, and then I wanted to do triathlons. And so my daughter said, who was doing triathlons at the time, she was like 18 and she was doing Ironman things. And so I started training with her, and she said, well, you should learn to swim, really. I could swim, but I mean, she meant, with my head down, freestyle and swim properly, not like a frightened dog. And so I did. I had some swimming lessons, and I started doing triathlons, which were first the entry level, and then we're talking half Ironman and all of this, and cycling things, and then swimming things, because now I could swim. And so I started swimming in small things and then bigger things, which led to 10K swims. And all of this was going on. And I was doing it with my children, and I loved it. We had a marvelous time. And we were, oh, my goodness me, I was, fit as a flea at this point. And then my body, 15 years later, started to complain a little bit.
So what age was that?
I was just thinking 35, 45. I must have been like 44-ish at this point. Maybe a little bit sooner. I'm old now and I forget things. And so I was struggling. I was starting to think, blimey, I'm not walking very well, and I, went down the doctor route. And after a long time, I needed 2 new hips, and got to the point where, with waiting lists, which were, are even worse now, but they were pretty bad then. I was 2 years on the waiting list waiting for these hips. And towards the end of these 2 years, I could barely walk. I was using sticks. I had never been in so much pain in my life. I've never understood chronic pain because I'd never had it. And I went into a different place completely that was horrible. I hated it. So
I can entirely sympathize because although I didn't need new hips, I had 4 years of chronic pain, and that was certainly my darkest days. And I think if I had gone to a doctor then about what was happening in my head, I would have absolutely been given the diagnosis of depression. And my husband would concur that they were some very, very dark days. Pain is so much more about the head sometimes than it is the body.
Oh, I couldn't understand it. I thought my life was over. I couldn't walk. So I'd gone from attempting Ironman distance events.
What a difference.
To not being able to walk. And I was having to use sticks. So I was now swimming, and I was turning up to my swims with sticks, which I would put to the water's edge. I'd go and swim, I'd get out. So of course I was having all of that as well. Oh, what have you done to yourself? Are you all right? It was just horrific. And I just wanted to tell everybody, this isn't me.
This isn't me.
This isn't me at all. I've just run 52 miles 2 years ago. This isn't me.
Yeah.
And it was awful. And then I met some wonderful person who said, as soon as you have these new hips, you will get your life back. Everything is going to be fine. Didn't believe her at all. I just thought, that's it. No, my life is over. Anyhow, I had the 2 new hips, and within weeks I was, oh my goodness me, I was this whole new person. The me had come back, but it was a slightly different me now, because I had experienced what this body of mine could do, as in get me over 52 miles on my feet, and also not being able to get me 2 meters on my feet. And so I appreciated things. I appreciated being able to walk
And
massively.
move.
2 years
And move
before that,
pain-free.
yeah, but 2 years before that, if somebody had said to me, "Oh, let's go for a 4 mile walk," I would have said, "No, let's go for a 4 mile run. Come on, let's go and run it, run it, run it." Now I'm at the place where I'm thinking, yeah, I'm going to do that 4 mile walk, and I'm going to do it slowly, and I'm going to look at all the wonderful things around me, and I'm going to pat myself on the back for this one, because you can walk. And so I started to see things in that light. I have a body that can now walk again. And I really started to appreciate simpler things. So people would say to me, "Are you going to take up running again?" And I was like, hell no, I'm not going to run again. I'm not ruining these two beautiful hips that I've been given on the NHS. I've been given this gift, this real life gift. So no, I'm not running again. And I in my head, I
And
was,
you're okay with that?
well, it took another couple of years to
Yes.
stop that.
Yes.
But I kept saying to myself, be grateful for what you've been given. And this is where the swimming started to take over. I mean, the Blue Tits was already up and running. But I had been ice mile training. So I'd been swimming with the Blue Tits, but I would then disappear to go and do ice mile training. And so I had my lovely dips with the Blue Tits, but I was still this amazing Sian that could go off and swim ice miles and ice marathons and you name it, not ice marathons, warmer water marathons. That was still in my head. It was still, that's the real me. And then there's the other side of me, which is the Blue Tit, which goes for lovely, gentle dips. But the lovely gentle dips started to take over now, because I started to appreciate the simpler things in life. And I started to realize that I didn't have to run a marathon to make myself feel amazing. Actually going for a dip, which was a gentle walk, and then taking a picnic with me and sitting down and enjoying people's company, was amazing, because I was celebrating life in a very different way. And then the years went by and we got more and more Blue Tits, and I see.
So can I just
thousands.
backtrack a little bit for those listening who are not aware of the Blue Tits? So this is something you started in 2014, am I right?
Yes, so it was just after I couldn't really run any longer, so I
So
I gave
swimming
it
was
all up.
then your mainstay at that point, of getting outside and getting into
Yes,
nature and getting that mental freedom
yeah.
from the fact that you weren't feeling mobile on land, I suppose,
Yes,
in
so
a
that
sense.
was, it came when I said I was going to give up marathons and all of that kind of stuff. Somebody said to me, "But you love a challenge," which I did. Have you ever heard of the ice mile? And I hadn't. I only heard the word mile, and I thought, well, this is going to be easy. It wasn't. It took me 3 years to train for that ice mile.
So
And
tell
that's
me
how the
what an
Blue
ice
Tits.
mile is then, because
An ice mile is swimming in water that is under 5 degrees for 1 mile in a swimsuit.
wow.
And so I've always been a wetsuit swimmer. So I thought that, I heard the mile, didn't I? I didn't hear 5 degrees, and I had no idea what 5 degrees felt like. So it did take me 3 winters to train for it. But that's how the Blue Tits started, because it was with another friend who was also training for the ice mile. And we started looking for colder and colder water around Pembrokeshire.
Okay.
And in 2014, it was unusual to see two human beings in a swimsuit in the sea in the winter. So people would come up to us and say, "What are you doing? You are mad, da-dee-da." But a few people said, "I'd quite like to join you." Now, I know people have always been swimming in winter in swimsuits. I know that's, my mother used to do it, but not en masse like you see now. So in 2014,
Absolutely.
we were quite a spectacle. So the Blue Tits grew and grew and grew, but I was still doing all my own stuff on the side, and the challenges, because that's what I wanted to do. But now, as the time went on and I'd done my ice mile and the Blue Tits had started to grow, now that it started with two of us, then it became 2,000 and then 20,000. And then lockdown happened, of course. And we could no longer go to gyms, marathons, events weren't happening. Nothing like this was happening. So people, when they were able to, started to look for things that they could do. And one of those things was go to a beach or a river or a lake park and swim, because you could just about do it socially distanced. You could still meet up up with a group, but you didn't have to touch them or be anywhere near them. So it really took off in lockdown.
And why do you think that other people, so it's interesting that you say people would see you doing it and they'd be intrigued and think you're slightly mad, but at the same time say, I quite fancy that. Why do you think people are attracted to trying it?
In my case, it was because I used to make an awful lot of noise and I always looked like I was enjoying myself. I've always liked performing. I'm not slightly bothered about performing on stages and stuff like that. So, and I'm also not a negative person. So even if I'm not particularly enjoying something, I will always portray that I am enjoying it because I like that human interaction with people. And so when I used to do the triathlons and stuff, all the serious people used to really bore me because they'd be so serious and they were doing it for their PBs and they'd be really miserable at the end of a marathon because they hadn't knocked 2 minutes off it. Whereas I perhaps wouldn't finish this marathon, but I'd be eating all the cake at the end, clapping everybody in. And they'd say, what was your time? And I'd say, oh, I didn't finish. And they'd say, blimey, you look really happy. And I go, well, I'm alive, aren't I? So of course I'm happy. So when I was doing
that attitude, that's brilliant.
And
that's what makes people smile. And that's what will always attract people to doing something perhaps that they wouldn't otherwise want to, because they want to absorb some of that energy as well.
Yes.
They want to be a part of that. But given that the Blue Tits has grown to a global community of over 120,000 people, something like a huge number. How do you think that spirit of you has stayed within that ethos? Because that's quite a hard thing to do, because that's a global operation, as it were, or a global movement, I should say.
I think my joy of filming and recording and entertaining at events has probably helped. I'm slightly inappropriate most of the time when I'm allowed to be. And so I think I probably attract a certain type of person. I mean, if you're offended by me, then, you don't want to be anywhere near me. But I also think the name helped. I think if we've called ourselves the Pembrokeshire Dippers, you're going to get a different type of person. But Blue Tits is slightly cheeky, slightly tongue-in-cheek.
And there's always a second glance when you say to someone, I'm talking to Sian about the Blue Tits, or I saw the Blue Tits when we were swimming the other day. I asked them what the temperature was, and the person will always kind of look, and there'll be a double take of, Blue Tits, you mean the birds? Oh, no, you don't mean the birds. What do you mean then? And actually, sometimes the thought goes straight to nudity.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Which there is still a lot of when people are getting changed. We've got to get changed quickly. We've got to warm up.
Yeah, I've done radio interviews where they've laughed when they've said, oops, Blue Tits, ha, 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 and I don't particularly laugh at it because, of course, I don't see it like that anymore. But you wouldn't join a group called the Blue Tits if you didn't have a certain sense of humour and perhaps enjoy my social media interaction. Not everybody does. They swim as Blue Tits and they probably think I'm foul-mouthed and vulgar. But then they don't interact with me, and that's fine. Yeah. But I do like social media, and I think that probably helps that I'm always doing something on social media. And at events, I love nothing more than the events, of course, when people come together and I can perform for 4 hours. That's amazing. But
do you think it makes people? Do you think people are surprised by, when they do give it a try, how it makes them feel? Because obviously, you were at quite a low when you really started to really get into it. And obviously the outcome was that you felt better generally about everything. Your mental health, your physical health started to improve because you obviously got your new hips and so on. But a lot of people, I mean, I personally started because I was suffering from insomnia with through the perimenopause and anxiety, and for me, going into the water was one person, coming out was another. And even some days I would sort of message my friend and say, I just don't know if I can come this morning because I'm miserable. And she would just say, get over here, and we'd go in. We wouldn't talk so much before, and I would come out and just feel literally like and there's so few things that are that sort of instant hit of positivity. there's very few things where you can literally almost click your fingers within that sort of minute and a half where you're breathing through the cold, and then you get the sort of fiery feeling on your skin and feel alive, and you feel that exhilaration. Do you think that you convey that, if you see what I mean, to the groups,
Yes.
and that's what?
Yeah, so when I started the running, and I used to feel good 20 minutes, 30 minutes in, I used to feel good. I didn't really know why. I didn't really understand anything about adrenaline back then. But that's what it was, of course. I didn't want to go running. It was raining, but I had to go running. So I'd force myself to go out the door. I'd start running. My blood would start pumping. There'd be adrenaline there to drive me forward. And then, of course, the endorphins come in after 20, 30 minutes. For me, it was. And the swimming is the same, but in a tinier package. So, you turn up for the swim, you don't want to go. And the great thing about a group is you've said you're going to go. So you've put it on the group. Oh, damn, why did I say I was going to go? So you drag yourself to the car park or wherever it is that you're meeting. And then I still do it now, all these years on. I look out the sea and go, well, that looks disgusting. It looks really cold. Oh, I don't like that at all. Somebody else will say the same. And then somebody else will say, I've driven 20 minutes to get here, get in the water. And go, oh, all right, we'll go in the water. So we're all trudging down the beach, and there's people there all muffled up in their coats and watching us. And I'm thinking, we are such idiots. Oh, my goodness me. And then, of course, you get that adrenaline hit, bang, it's straight away because, it's already there as you're walking down the beach. Wham, you go into the water. 90 seconds later, your skin gets to that point where you can accept it. And the endorphins go boom. 2 minutes later, get out. You've done it. You've done that whole package.
Yeah.
The headache's gone. The mood is lighter. You've sorted some crap out with somebody else. And now the best bit's coming. The coffee, the cake, the warm clothes, that beautiful chatter that everybody has afterwards because they feel amazing. So now I know that's coming. So even though I whinge and say, oh, I don't want to go in, I think, oh, for goodness sake, Sian, in 5 minutes' time, you'll be out and dressed. Get in the water. And so I do it because of that. It's a drug. And it is a drug. Adrenaline is this wonderful free drug that we get given and don't necessarily have to use now because we don't chase our food and our food doesn't chase us. And I meet a lot of people now who are it's been coined dry tits. So these are people who come along, and round here, our doctor recommends people who are feeling maybe a little low, maybe a bit lonely. We get a lot of people that retire to this area because they've holidayed here all their life. So they arrive with their partners or not with their partners, or, because they have lost their partners and they are lonely. And so our local doctor says, join the Blue Tits. Oh, I can't possibly swim. You don't have to swim. Just turn up and say hello. And so we had a lovely example.
That's amazing.
Very, very recently. I know. And I love this.
I love
really
that.
Love
that's what an unexpected, amazing addition, because ultimately this is all about community. This is all, as you said, the accountability of a group. And for safety's sake, it's really important that you cold water swim with someone else. And therefore you kind of have to have someone there. Great. That creates that community. And obviously the community you've created, if that can extend to everyone and anyone, then that's just amazing, because there are some people who will never go into that cold water because they say it's just not for me, and that's so fine, because they will hopefully feel the joy and the buzz of the people getting out, and then perhaps they have had to walk down the beach to get to you, or walk back, or add in just a little bit of movement to get there.
So we had a lady recently who came along. She'd been housebound for a while. She had a lot of physical problems, but being housebound, mental problems came from that as well. And so she had a dog walker. The dog walker is a very active swimmer here, and said to her one day, just come along for the car ride. We'll take the dogs, we'll have a little walk, and then you can meet everybody. So she was very quick to say, I'm not swimming. And we were like, nobody minds. We know that's absolutely fine. Neither is John over there, and neither is Mary over there. So that's absolutely fine. And 6 weeks later, she said, I have something I'd like to share with you all. I'm going to celebrate with you all. I can now put my own shoes on. And I was very aware of how this should be celebrated, because I've met many people in her situation. So she was so excited by this that she went to her doctor, or to see her nurse, And she said to the nurse, this is amazing. I can put my shoes on. The nurse said, why? What have you been doing that's enabled this? And she said, I've just been going out once a week and I've been sitting with the Blue Tits and walking the dogs. So walking the dogs now for the first time in 2 years herself. And she was so overjoyed that she could put her shoes on. And this still gets me right there, because this is what it's all about. You
Absolutely.
have to get out of the house. You have to get in a car. So your body is moving, getting in the car. You walk out of the car. You are a little bit cold, possibly, because say it's the winter. And so, you're keeping warm. Your body, your metabolism is, working away to get you all nice and warm. You might walk a little bit on the beach. You bend down to pick up a ball. All these simple, tiny, seemingly insignificant things are massive and to be celebrated. And then, of course, as you've said, your mood is now improved. You've had a conversation with people. You've met somebody who's in a similar situation to you, maybe, and they said, 6 months ago, I couldn't put my shoes on. And now I actually go paddling with the Blue Tits, or I go up to my knees with the Blue Tits, or I just come here and light the fire for the Blue Tits, which is what this lady started doing. She became chief firelighter in the winter. So she also then...
So she was needed. She
was needed.
There.
Yes, yeah. She was always welcome, but she and we
but
all
felt
liked
like she
to
had
feel
a
needed.
purpose
Yes,
and a role.
she had a purpose. So she was bending down to pick up the firewood. She started to do all of these things now instinctively without thinking about it, because she naturally bent down to pick up the dog's ball or the firewood or walk over uneven pebbles.
All such brilliant movement.
Things.
Yes.
And then she started. So the dog walker walks her dogs walks her charges dogs every day. So this lady then started 3 days a week just meeting the dog walker for random walks with the dogs. She was only managing, I say only, sorry, I mean she was managing half a mile, maybe, she got up to half a mile. That was huge. It was enormous. It's not just about the walking of the half a mile. It's about getting out of the door and feeling good about yourself. And so that's what I love about where the Blue Tits has gone, is that we celebrate small wins.
But can I say you're changing, the key thing is you're changing people's lives. And this is not you personally necessarily, clearly you said it all going, but everyone is changing everyone else's lives. And I talk about something called the movement ripple effect, which is just me talking about sit down on the floor today if you get the chance, or play with your grandson or whatever, or do something silly and balance on a curb and see if anyone else looks at you, laughs with you, laughs at you, follows you, suddenly is doing it themselves on their own because they see you doing it and think, actually, I'm going to give that a little shot. And why not? Just because I'm 50, 60, whatever, why can't I balance on the edge of the pavement just for a bit of fun? And I just think that that's the most powerful thing, is that we make changes in people's lives when we model amazing behavior, movement to others. And yet sometimes we don't even know we're doing it. And that's the loveliest thing. So that lovely lady, she will also be impacting someone else, because she'll chat to her friend and say, oh, I wasn't walking however many months ago. This has all changed for me. And that person will then think, I can have a go. If they can do it, I can do it. And so much of that confidence that breathes out the way is just so, so important in life. And coming back to the swimming element, I think I know various friends who we've all ended up getting in and supporting each other to do it. And it's been much more about confidence than anything else, because I think particularly around midlife, there's a huge loss of confidence. I don't know why that is, but often that can happen, where you potentially have lost yourself a little bit, particularly if you've been raising lots of kids and so on, and you're absorbed in their life. And I think that being able to push yourself, that little bit of nudge that's needed from other people to just give you that confidence, is then again a huge ripple. And I'm sure you must see that in people's lives outside of swimming and movement and so on, it increases their confidence in general.
Yes, it does. And it is that the power of community here. So what we find is that people may watch the groups for a while. So they've heard about the Blue Tits. They've said instinctively, nope, it's not for me. That's absolutely ridiculous. I hate cold showers. And then a friend does it and somebody else feels a little bit better because they've done it. Come along. No, I'm not going to come along. They watch, they see, they're waiting for that moment where they possibly see somebody who looks like them, same age as them, same size as them, same disability as them, somebody using a walking stick, whatever it is. And then they come along and they realize that they're not that different. We're all different. We're all
Yes.
very, very different people. There is no such perfect person. And that's what I love about the Blue Tits, is that all shapes, sizes, ages, genders come along. And other people see that. They see them enjoying themselves. They see them openly stuffing a massive cake into their face. They see them laughing. They see them losing their knickers on the beach and running after them. They see them dropping their towel accidentally and going, "Oh my goodness
We
me."
have found a pair of pants left at the bench where we all change. We have, and we've looked at it and said, yeah, I know whose that will have been. It will have been a swimmer. And whereas if you randomly find pants anywhere else, you kind of think that's a bit strange, but there, no, that's
Exactly.
completely normal.
Yeah.
And I don't even bother with pants when I go, I have to admit.
No.
Bit pointless. Bit of extra hassle when you've got cold fingers.
It's just that doing something simple, as I say, seemingly simple, which is life changing. And it isn't just swimming. It is the movement, the community, the laughter, the feeling part of a tribe, whatever it is that does it for you. It's getting out. And you don't really, when people say, how far do you swim?
Yeah.
And I try to use the word dip now more than swim.
We do. Our WhatsApp group is called Dipping, because that is what it's about. It is about dipping. And then I was going to say to you, talk about this with you, because it's interesting, because you've been in a lot of sports or exercise modes that are very closely aligned with competition. But for some reason, cold water it always seems to be the opposite. It's about cooperation and community. I've never ever gone into it thinking about how long. In a sense, we've always been thinking, how short should it be? It's the opposite, to make sure that we're safe, that we don't sort of get into a more dangerous hypothermic type feeling afterwards. And we'll talk about the week before and we'll say, actually, I think we're in just a little bit too long, because it really took me a bit longer to warm up that time. So should we just reduce it a little bit this time? And last time we went in, it was about 5 degrees or 4 degrees. And yeah, we went in, we moved around, got nice and warm, sang a few little mini songs, and then came out. Still got the most incredible result. And therefore, and everyone, when we got in and out, we were queuing to get in and out. And there was no one sort of saying, oh, you went really far, well done. There's none of that at all.
No, and that's what I do love about it, is that it's not all about that, and when they say how long were you in the water, I was like, I don't know, 2 minutes.
Yeah,
it just, I am a 2-3 minute. It's the before and after that I love just as much as being in, and I often do it just to show everybody else that it's okay to do that. Sometimes I wear a wetsuit just to show people that it's okay. It doesn't matter.
No.
It doesn't matter what you wear. And I that's what I love about it. And that's when I first did my first competition in cold water, because at the very beginning I was still into this competitive mode. That's when I realized that for the first time in however many years, I'd found the bunch of people that I loved. This was a competition. And I was making all sorts of excuses because I was only there to swim 30 meters, and I was nervous and twittering on about, oh, I'm only here for 30 meters. People were patting me on the back. Well done for being here. I'd never had that in the other sports. Never, ever, ever. I've given up early in swim things because I've thought, no, I'm not doing another lap. I'm too cold. People have patted me on the back and said, thank you for getting out. The organisers, well done. Well done for knowing your limit, because the last thing they want is somebody jittering on the side. And it's the only sport I've ever known that, where people have actually congratulated me for getting out early, for finishing early. And there's none of this, oh, never mind, you didn't manage the 4 laps. Well done you managed 3 laps. Good for you.
And there's so much in this world about, I don't know, we seem to love numbers and data for some strange reason. And people get very obsessed. I often get asked about, how many times should I do that? How many times should I do that a day? How will that make me? And I always answer yes, because yes, just do it. It's about tuning into yourself and your own body, because if you don't sense how movement makes you feel, And like you were saying before, you've tuned into the after because, you know, there's a bit of discomfort to get there, but really healthy discomfort to get there. But if you always know you're going to feel better with any type of movement afterwards, then it doesn't matter how long. It's about tuning in to when you're already feeling good with that thing and what
Mm.
it's doing for you, because otherwise you're not going to do it again. You're never
No.
going to keep repeating things. And if it's just like if you get told you've got to do 10 sets of this, 5 sets of that, and certain by physio, by whatever, it's the most painful experience in the planet. And you do it so mindlessly, you're counting to fire through it because you want to be at the end. What's the
Yes.
point? What's the point?
If you start doing something, you know, you start walking like this lady did from the car to the beach, and then within a month or so, she's walking half a mile, not because she wanted to, but because she could, you know, not because anybody told her to. And you're right, movement should just be celebrated. You know, if you get out the house and you go for a little walk and you come back again and it's taken you 20 minutes, that's fine. Celebrate that. Don't say, oh, I only did 20 minutes today. It's,
Exactly.
yeah, no, do you know what? You did 20 minutes a day. Some
I got
days
out. Yeah.
I'm working on the computer because I'm doing so much stuff and I haven't moved. And so then I go for a 20-minute walk and I'm like, yep, well done you. You managed to do all that work today and get a 20-minute walk. I wouldn't have done that years ago. But since my
Yeah.
new hips, I appreciate that now. And it's just being together with people. You naturally move anyhow and you feel so much better. And I don't
Yeah.
like all of this. Oh, I've got to do this by da-dee-da, and I'm training for this. And I don't like it anymore. I used to love it, of course. But now I appreciate the much more simpler things. And just being with people, you just naturally move. And moving makes your brain feel better.
And
And
it's
it's
how
not
you
about,
can find joy. And
yes,
you know, it's sort of perhaps banded around the word joy, but it's a real thing that you have to, it's almost like a muscle you do that you have to work. You have to be able to find it, notice it, and be grateful that you're feeling it. And then you're much more likely to feel it again. I'm sure of it. It's like the whole use it or lose it thing. I think once you find joy, work at keeping it, and you know,
yeah.
and it will make you feel so much
Mm.
better. And so just because I like to be very practical in the sort of examples that we share and the things that I message about, how would you say someone should go about getting started with thinking about cold water swimming? Because we haven't really talked about practicalities. And actually, there are a few things that I think would be useful to people so that if they thought, right, well, I've ticked those boxes, then I really am ready to go. And then perhaps they could go to a Blue Tits meeting or challenge a friend that might want to get the same benefit as them so that they're kind of ready to go.
Join a group. Obviously, I'm going to say the Blue Tits, but any group. And don't commit yourself to swim at the beginning. If it's a good group, as I would hope most Blue Tits or all Blue Tit groups are, and you turn up and say, hi, I'm Sian. I'm not ready to swim yet, but I would just love to come along and meet you and watch what you do. Because that's also important, that we're very nervous. It takes a lot of courage to turn up to any group. You're worried about all sorts of things. Am I too old? Am I too slow? Am I too thin? Am I too fat? All of these. Are they going to put their Garmins on and start swimming? Oh my God, I'm going to be left behind. I don't want to do it. Don't overthink that bit too much. Turn up to a group and say, hello, I'm not ready to swim. I'm just here to meet you all and start to feel comfortable. And then let yourself, don't beat yourself up about, you know, you might still be doing that in 6 months' time. It doesn't matter if you're doing it in 6 months' time. If you're not ready yet, that's fine. You're still there. Celebrate that. You're still turning up to swims. You're still helping the group grow, because it doesn't matter how many we dry tits turn up to a swim. It's all the human faces that we love. You know, if one person turns up, that's great. Brilliant. There's 2 of you having a natter. If 22 of you turn up and only 2 are swimming, that doesn't matter either, because you've got 20 other faces there, 20 other people to talk to. So do that, join a group. Yes, there are the safety benefits in this. Obviously, if you get into some trouble or you are a bit nervous because actually your hands have gone numb very quickly and you say, blimey, is this normal? Somebody else will say, yep, it is normal. If you don't like it, put some gloves on. Oh, I'd never thought of that. people who have been doing it for a while will give you the tips. And yes, if something more dreadful were to happen to you, you've got other people around who will help you, advise you, get you home, whatever it is that you need help with. The Blue Tits offer a lot of safety advice on their websites. We also have now Blue Tit swim coaches trained up all around the country.
Oh, brilliant.
And we're about to launch a water safety course for all Blue Tits. I've got 2 of them here today, 2 of the assessors down here today training to become assessors for this course. And it's all very Blue Titty based. So it's simple things that they're going to be teaching everybody, not mind-blowing, complicated things that you can't understand. If you start to learn the basics of what's happening and when you go swimming, what's happening to your body, then you will hopefully be inspired to go and learn more. Because from experience, the more I have learnt about cold water swimming and how my body reacts to it, the braver, stronger, more capable I feel. I don't have any qualms in getting out of the water after 2 minutes now, because I know my body at the moment. Yes, when I was doing ice miling training, 40 minutes, I'd be fine. Now, no,
Wow.
I'm not. So I know if I want to stay in a little bit longer, I know what's going to happen, and that's fine.
Yes.
It's my informed choice to stay in a little bit longer. So knowing things about your body is so powerful. And if you start off very slowly by doing your little 90-second minute dips, whatever it is, and learning that, oh, my fingers do go a really strange color, or in my case, I get a funny feeling on the back of my neck. When that first started to happen, I thought, that's it, I'm going to die. I realized I wasn't. It's just something that is unique to me. And as you start to become more experienced, you start giving assistance to other people. Oh, yes, don't worry about that. Hold my hand. Come in here. Don't go in over there. It's a bit slippy. This starts to make you feel more powerful because now you're a useful person. You know things. So joining a group is great for safety, but it's also good for your mental health. It's good for you because you start to feel like a more active member of your community and you become useful. You might be a very good baker. You bring lovely cakes with you every time. I have a place in this group. I'm not, but I know the ones who are that turn up to my swim. And it's like, oh, Jane's here. This is amazing. But I'm the type of person that will stay out of the water with you because you're feeling nervous today. I don't mind forgoing my swim. I'd rather sit with you and talk to you because you don't feel like going in today. I'm good at that. I will always wait for the last person to go in the water. I don't mind doing that. Plenty of people who just gallop off. But no, I'm not one of them, but I can't bake a cake. I have my place, in the group. And it's always, I say, don't overthink things. Oh, well, I'm going to join in the new year when I feel a little better because I could do with losing a stone or 2 and I'm not feeling brilliant at the moment. And who wants to look at this body? I mean, it's disgusting. All of these, stop thinking that. Stop it. Just
no
go
one's
along.
looking. They're all thinking about the cold.
And you don't know that nobody's looking until you go. And you're sitting there and you're watching people losing their knickers. You're watching them exposing a bum cheek or a little rogue boob pops out from somewhere. And this person might be in her 80s, in his 80s. And you notice that they don't mind. And you think, oh, I could never be like that. I'd always be terrible. Oh, my goodness me. And then you start to notice that nobody is actually looking. It's only you at the moment because you're sitting there thinking, could I be that person? Could I do this? Oh, I don't think. Once you start doing it yourself, you realize no one's looking. But you can't convince people of that unless they turn up. I could be telling you this in the doctor's surgery and you'd be thinking, well, she's just talking rubbish. If you get people to turn up, they start to see these things for themselves. They start to realize that people do laugh out loud and spit comes out of their mouth. They do let out a cheeky fart and go, whoops, sorry, that was me. And nobody minds. In fact, everybody's
they're
laughing.
only human.
Yes, quite. They're human. You might get people who swear and who they don't normally swear because they live somewhere or in an environment where it's not right. They have small children. They live with elderly parents who don't like swearing, partners, whatever. And they let out a marvelous swear word when they go in the water and everybody laughs. Oh, Jane, that's not like you. Goodness me. And it's all these simple things. It's just humans being humans, but allowing themselves to be whoever they want to be today. Sod it. I'm me. And then you might go back to your life that has its restrictions for whatever reason. But you know that perhaps once a week You can just go out there and be you. So my basic advice is join a group. I mean, obviously I'm going to say the Blue Tits, but any group, you'll get the confidence from these people. You'll start to learn, get safety knowledge from these people, and listen to your body. Allow your body to lead you into the water. Start slowly, 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 slowly. Don't listen to any of this. Oh, well, I did 20 minutes today. They're, as far as I'm concerned, they're not Blue Tits anyhow. And most Blue Tits won't do that. I mean, they might say, oh, I'm training for an ice mile, so I'm just going to swim up and down while you are all here because I feel that safety that you are watching me. And then someone will shout, Sian, you've been in 20 minutes, get out. That kind of thing is, but most Blue Tits are not like that. You won't be made to feel inadequate in any way because you are not staying in the water for 20 minutes and you're not having the most amazing after drop.
It's a wonderful, wonderful movement that you've created, and it's really important, I suppose, to keep it going, that you get donations from people to help the cause so that you can continue. So if you would like to tell us how people can find and support the Blue Tits, then do let us know.
Well, we sell merchandise, which is all crazy, lovely, bright, loud clothing, and so we get we get an income to keep the Blue Tits going. We're a not-for-profit, so anything that we do make extra over and above running the costs, running the basic costs here of Blue Tit HQ, we put into something which is going to be the water safety now, and it was the swim coaches. So we part-funded 20-something swim coaches to get their qualifications. We do have a donation button on the Blue Tits, which is the bluetits.co.uk. We have our little challenges that go. We still charge £5 for them, but that all goes, towards the cause. And we do events, of course. I mean, they're not massive money making. I mean, I'm pretty sure people probably think that we're raking it in from the events, but these venues cost an awful lot to hire, as does insurance and all of this kind of stuff. But that's great because we get to sell merch there. We have a few little kickbacks with some suppliers. We get a little 5% when people buy things, that kind of thing. And we have had a few grants to help us keep going. So yes, it's always on our mind here that we have to bring in money to keep HQ going and then launch whatever it is we're going to launch, which is this water safety that we're going to roll out next year around the UK. So yes, we do have a donation button, but what I love more is when people buy a little bit of merch. I love that because it's also...
And then post about it, I presume.
Yes, quite, and post about it. And you're going out there, and I can walk through Cardiff, London, Bristol, wherever I've been, and I've got a bit of merch on, and someone will shout, "Oi, Blue Tit!" And I love that connection, that instantly there's two smiles that come together. And where are you, Blue Tit? Oh, I'm this and I'm that, whatever. And I love that. So, I love it when people buy the merch because that really supports us. And do the challenges. The challenge is a little bit of fun. You don't have to do all the distances. It's just really about supporting the Blue Tits. We also have a shopping card, which is basically a donation to the Blue Tits. And in return, you get discounts on companies who we like to work with. So we like to have this little triangle. The Blue Tits get something. The swimmers in the Blue Tits get something, and the supplier gets something. So the supplier gets access to our audience get discount on gear, and we get the £24, whatever it is, from the sale of the card. So that's a donation to the Blue Tits. And I'd love to see more people having that card, really, because that is just a wonderful way of supporting us. But we get by, I'm very imaginative, and Gail, who is our finance director, she works very hard at making sure that the money keeps coming in. So we get there.
Which is brilliant. Yeah, and it's so important to be able to keep it going, and because so many people are benefiting from it. And so this podcast is called Make Movement Matter, and you've really done that in spades. So on behalf of an awful lot of people, thank you so much for setting this amazing movement in motion, but also for giving us your time today. And hopefully some listeners may just think, okay, this is the push. I've been thinking about it, but now I'm going to go and do it. Yeah. So let's hope that that's the case.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for your time.
No, you're very welcome. Thank you.
I always love hearing my guests' movement stories or learning from them about topics they're passionate about. I hope you've enjoyed listening, and if you have, you can help by doing 3 things. First, press the follow button to tell podcast platforms you want to listen again. Second, please give the show a 5-star rating and leave a review about why you liked it. And third, I'd love you to share it with friends and family or on your socials, for which I'm truly thankful. Finally, if this podcast is making you want to start reclaiming your own movement, join me in the Reclaim Movement membership for classes, both live and by replay, and countless videos of mini movement breaks to add into your daily life, covering practical and fun, important natural movements. Visit reclaimmovement.co.uk/membership to get started with your 7-day free trial. See you for the next episode, and thank you so much for listening.